After Joseph Kosinki cooked us with Top Gun Maverick, he decided to give us a new dish on his menu, a movie about Formula 1, where a new team is struggling on the grid, and as their final Hail Mary, they hired a wildcard driver to try and give their team their first win. After seeing the previews and trailers for the movie, I was pretty hyped, especially with Lewis Hamilton being one of the producers who helped with the movie, so it was in very safe hands with him in the production team. They also brought in Hans Zimmer for the music, so I know this soundtrack that he's cooking up is going to be a banger. So I went to my local theater, ordered a ticket, and watched it. Now this is gonna be a review of the movie, so there will be spoilers ahead because I'll be talking about major plot points and opinion on the movie. If you want to skip the spoilers, I will put the time code on the screen. Sonny Hayes, former F1 driver turned gambler and van dweller, who was absent from the sport for 3 decades, got asked by an old teammate, Ruben Cervantes, to drive for his team. At first he wasn't very interested since he was going for other motorsport activities like the Daytona 24 Hours, which he won, and Dakar Rally and other motorsport activities. He would slay them like dragons. The reason why he wasn't interested on rejoining to Formula 1 is because he had a near fatal crash back in the 90s in Spain, so he wasn't really sure if he wants to rejoin that sport. Ruben gave him a first class ticket to Silverstone and he decided to fly there for the Apex GP test. Apex GP is on his 3rd season and haven't scored a single point, not even a single win. And if they don't get a win this season, the board will sell the team. I don't know, that's kind of harsh for a new team, unless if you have fucking Max Verstappen as your drivers and a rocket ship as one of your cars, but that's just a bit harsh. They have to do it in these 9 races. Other than that, bye bye Apex GP. The rookie Joshua Pierce starts off arrogant first and clashes with Sonny after he joins in, though he does make a bet. If he beats his lap time, he will drive for the team. He did, but not after totaling the car at the final turn and even beating his lap time, which I don't know, that does sound a bit bullshit. Before the race start in Silverstone, he met with one of the members of the Apex GP board, Peter Banning, whose only credential to F1 was Drive to Survive. I can already tell this guy is some bad juju. The race in Silverstone ended in disaster as both cars DNF'd because they don't want to concede places. After the race in Silverstone, Joshua decided to look up Sonny's history with Formula 1 and he saw the crash that nearly killed him back in Spain. Sonny decided to flirt with Kate, the technical director of Apex GP, to get an upgrade for the car. She will only give them an upgrade if they at least scored once. So, after unorthodox strategies in Hungary, Pierce scored his first points thanks to Sonny. And by unorthodox, I mean almost illegal bullshit, crashing into Sainz and breaking multiple teams' front wing, causing multiple safety car deployments. This does smell of Crashgate, don't you think? After Hungary, they went to Monza, where it rained at the last parts of the race, and Pierce was advised by Sonny to stay out on track with slicks. I hope this doesn't end badly. As Pierce catches up to Verstappen, Sonny advised him to overtake Verstappen on the main straight and be patient, don't do anything stupid. Instead, he ignored the advice and tried to dive at the final corner, causing him to crash and burn like Romain Grosjean. The mother in the media blames the crash on Sonny because it was his call to stay on slicks, causing Pierce to miss a handful of races after the upgrade package came in. This causes Sonny to lock the fuck in and score a lot of points for the team. Come back to Joshua, but he's still struggling to heal from his wounds, and he's seeing Sonny is taking all the spotlight in the team, so he believes that he's being sidelined. Then comes Spa. Joshua hits Sonny, causing him to spin and then DNF, causing more attention on the team, so Kate and Ruben decided to do some team bonding, and that means playing a game of poker. There's some backstories about the various drivers. Pierce had to leave because he had to visit a sponsor bar, and then comes the Kate and Sonny romance scene, which I'm not really a fan of. After they were done, Ruben went to Kate's room and told them to come to the garage because the upgrade was deemed illegal by the FIA. An anonymous source gave them a tip, so the only way they could race is if they used their own underfloor spec. During the race in Las Vegas, Sonny gets very pissed and drives angrily, causing him to crash on the final corner trying to overtake Perez. He landed in the hospital with Ruben. Ruben learns about Sonny's injury from 3 decades ago and decided to fire him from the team. Pierce overheard the discussion between Sonny and Ruben. He decided to leave the hospital before Ruben noticed. Before leaving Vegas, Banning gave Sonny an offer. He wants to sell the team, but he wants him to be in the package as well. He wants either Sonny to become the chief strategist for the new Apex team or the team principal if he decides to betray Ruben. Sonny confronts him and asks asked if he was the guy who gave the anonymous tip to the FIA. Banning says he was doing his job. Conniving cunt. He declines his offer, so he decided to flew to Abu Dhabi and race with the team. Pierce has turned a new leaf and become more of a team player. Kate informs that the tip was forged and they can use the upgrade for this race. Ruben was first hesitant on letting Sonny back on the track, but he decided to do it. The race went well until Sonny bins it in the final corner Latifi style, trying to pass George Russell, causing a red flag. I wonder where we've seen that before. Sonny managed to bring the car back and got it repaired before the race restart, which I believe is against the regulations now. Everyone in the track is using old softs, while Apex is using new softs, because due to poor qualifying, they managed to save those tires. The race restart happens, Hamilton and Pierce duke it out for P1, and they both crashed out at turn 1. Sonny is in P1 and he wins the race. Apex celebrated their first win, Banning was not a fan that he could not sell the team, and Sonny said his goodbyes to Kate and Pierce. And roll credits. Now that is the verbatim version of the F1 movie plot. Now this is the review for the movie. I found it pretty good. It was cool that they had permission to record some scenes during the real F1 Grand Prix. I believe the last time that did that was a film by the name of Grand Prix. The movie was recorded during the 1966 F1 season. The cinematography was outstanding. The garage was a 1-to-1 replica of an F1 team's garage, and the several racing scenes were even digitally enhanced to add realism. It generally felt like the Apex GP car is in real life. This example would be Hamilton's overtake in Mexico. It was pretty well integrated. Even when they showed their HQ, they used facilities from real teams. Like the HQ for Apex GP is McLaren's HQ. The simulator was from Mercedes, and the wind tunnel is actually from Williams. You know, I kind of find it funny that they just yoink these facilities from real teams and just use it for their season. I just imagine Williams, Merc, and McLaren without these facilities for the 2023 season. I don't know, I just find it funny. The one thing I wasn't really a fan of was the writing for the story, since it is somewhat cliche and the plot is pretty predictable. The old veteran saves a new team trope, which I felt is a safe and pretty uninspired route. Since it's a new project, they wanted to make it safe, so they decided to do this cliche route. The one scene that I find it cringy but was also cool was the combat scene, where after Sonny gave his speech, his race engineer starts to chant combat, and then people in the garage started to chant combat, which was cool, but for me it was somewhat cringy. The characters are pretty okay. I personally like Kate and Ruben. Kate, being the first female technical director in F1, was a great touch, but the romance arc with Sonny felt unnecessary. If you cut off the Vegas romance scene, the movie would have been better in my opinion. Ruben though was a surprise. I expected him to be the antagonist, being Sonny's former teammate, but he ended up being one of my favorite characters. He clearly believed in the team's potential. They just need the right people around him just to make it work. The villain, on the other hand, well, villain in quotation mark, honestly he was pretty rushed. I can already tell that this guy is giving some bad juju vibes. I already don't trust him after he said that he watched Drive to Survive, which genuinely made me laugh as a small jab to how dramatized the show can be. But his role as being the antagonist felt weak and very rushed. The guy just got plopped in, you're the antagonist now. Sonny being a retired F1 driver from the 90s is a cool concept, but I don't think he should have returned to the grid after his crash, especially as a driver. Sure, he had a gritty past in other motorsport events like Daytona, Dakar, and other motorsport activities, which is admirable, but it would have made sense for him to take the role as a team principal for Apex. Even if he is going to drive, I'm not sure if he's even legal to drive under the updated super license regulation. The FIA Super License is basically a license where you need this to drive in Formula 1. Some of the requirements are you need to be 18 years old, you need to have a driver's license, and you need to pass a FIA theory test on F1 sporting codes and regulations. Speaking of sporting codes and regulations, his actions on track and how he managed to manipulate the race should have given him at least a race ban or even a permaban from F1, because the amount of bullshittery he did, especially in the Hungary scene, this guy would definitely get a race ban or even a permaban on Formula 1. They always think of Plan C for chaos. That said, his crash in Spain is based on a real life crash that happened to the driver Martin Donnelly, who crashed in the 1990 Spanish Grand Prix. And if you see the original footage of that crash, it's pretty gnarly. The way they depict that crash in the film was fucking brutal. One plot point that went nowhere was Sonny's loss of vision. Before the final race, there are clear signs that his eyesight is deteriorating, and it resurfaced during the race, but there is no real payoff about it. I suspect the deleted scene that people saw in Vegas might explain his loss of vision, but we may never know unless they give us the deleted scene. I feel like Joshua Pierce's journey to F1 could have been the central storyline for the movie instead of Sonny Hayes' return to F1. That angle would have highlighted his sacrifices to reach the sport, the trials and tribulation he had to go to, maybe a story based off like Lewis Hamilton and Esteban Ocon's story. Their families were not very wealthy, but they managed to get into Formula 1. The team, Apex GP itself, is a character, but the film didn't dive deep enough into the overall team cohesion between pit crew and the strategists and how they would work together. Like the strategists would call, you need this amount of time to overtake this car, or you would need this amount of time to not get overtaken. It also shows the role of women in the sports, like the pit crew Jody. She was shown as clumsy at first, but later on she ironed out her mistakes and giving the team their crucial pit stops. And during the final race, there was a woman strategist who made the crucial pit stop timing call. They need an X amount of time to beat Hamilton and Leclerc to the line without getting overtaken. It would have been cool to see like how the team developed during these 9 races, showing more about the pit crew themselves, how they train, strategists, how they use data and calculate the best strategies. But I guess they could do it due to time constraints and how long a movie can be. The movie also overly dramatized like the racing experience. Sure, there are some overtakes here and there, but if you ever watch like a full F1 race in either F1 TV, Sky Sports, etc., it can get pretty boring, and it also tests your abilities to stay awake for 90 plus minutes of pure racing or even just pure nothing. It also like skips the entire race weekend elements, like there's no qualifying and no practice session. Sure, Ruben did mention about qualifying, but it wasn't really explained well. So if they explain like this is how a full race weekend works, it would have made that scene a bit more sense. Like how did they get this soft tire? Did it just magically appear? They qualified bad and they managed to save this soft tire for the red flag incident. The portrayal of upgrades are pretty accurate. It can show how upgrades can make your car from a very bad shitbox to somewhat of a competitive shitbox. It reminds me similar to McLaren's 2023 season, where they started at the very end of the grid. Their car was a shitbox, but after upgrades and upgrades and upgrades, they became constructor contenders. Even the depiction of the media post-race press conferences in the film was pretty accurate. It captured how ruthless the F1 press can be. Another strong aspect of the movie was the interaction between real-life drivers and team principals. It was cool to see them interact with the actors. It makes them feel grounded. There's a scene where Sonny was talking to James Vowles, the team principal for Williams. There's a press conference between the team principal of Apex, and then there's Zach Brown, the CEO of McLaren, not the team principal, and Fred Vasseur, the team principal for Ferrari. Drivers like Sainz, Leclerc, Hamilton, Fernando, Verstappen have their cameos, and even at the end of the film, the Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff has like a cameo, telling Pierce like, hey, if you're interested, you can drive for my team. Even Stefano Domenicali gets a cameo, and most importantly, the best cameo of all time, Good Boy Roscoe gets his cameo. Personally, one of the funniest cameos in the film was probably from former team principal of Haas, Günther Steiner. During the race in Hungary and Sonny's Plan C, he crashed into Magnussen and he broke his front wing. You can even see the look on his face. Man was just not happy. I find this actually very funny and so Günther coded. At least there was no Mr. Bullshit on screen. Also, big props to the commentators. The way they tried to fit in Apex GP to the real race, it was pretty impressive. One thing I should mention is that the marketing for the movie was pretty impressive, especially that one account that I keep seeing on Instagram, which they post like race results, qualifying results, practice results. It felt like that the team even exists. I am pretty impressed. The race calendar was altered for the movie. The first 2 races matches the real 2023 calendar, went from Silverstone to Hungary. After Hungary is Spa, Spa, then Zandvoort, then Monza, Singapore, Suzuka, Qatar, etc, etc. This time Monza is the next race, and then during that race we had Pierce's major crash, which is based off a Formula 3 crash back in 2019. After that they went to Zandvoort, Suzuka, Mexico, and then Spa. I believe Spa's placement was changed out of respect for Delano van 't Hoff's tragic death in 2023. Ruben did also mention that there are 9 races left, so they removed various tracks like Singapore, Qatar, Brazil, and Austin from the calendar. It's a minor detail, but it's understandable why they moved Spa a bit further down the calendar. The film has 2 soundtracks. There's like the one soundtrack was sprinkled in, and then there's Hans Zimmer's soundtrack. The first soundtrack is meh-ish. My personal favorites from that are Underdog, Don't Let Me Drown, Bad As I Used To Be, and Lose My Mind. Though I find it pretty funny that there is a version of Lose My Mind without Doja Cat's rapping. You know when your rapping is ass when someone cuts off the rap. I find it alright. Still, it's funny that the version even exists. But the main course is from the myth, the man himself, Hans Zimmer. And he gave us a meal and he cooked it to perfection with his scores. Every time his score comes up, I feel like I ascended into the skies. Especially the song Elbows Out. It gives me like an Ace Combat style tune and vibes. To be fair, he did the score for Rush, Top Gun Maverick, and even the original Modern Warfare 2. So this man knows how to deliver a banger soundtrack. And the F1 theme. Oh my god. I have genuinely creamed my jorts after hearing that. Now this is the main group of criticism I have with the film. Since we're on the last end, I'm just gonna give like my final thoughts and nitpicking some small details about the film. There are some details that you might notice during the film. Since it was recorded during the 2023 and 2024 seasons, you may notice like some details between like the liveries and the team. I believe you can see it even in one of the trailers where Ferrari has like 2 different liveries, one from 2023 and one from 2024, because I thought the movie was going to take place like at the end of 2023 and then it builds up in 2024. I'm impressed on the F1 car replica that they had. Basically like a modified F2 car chassis to make it look like an F1 car. In some scenes you might notice the scaling of the car is pretty off since the F2 cars are pretty shorter than the F1 car, and it being an F2 car there would be fire coming out the exhaust, which also happens in F1 car, though it's pretty rare. Some of the regulations have either been ignored or just straight out deleted from the FIA handbook, because I believe you can't bring your car for repairs under red flag conditions, and during a sudden driver change you should have started like in the pit lane. And this is like a funny thing that during the P1 duke-off between Pierce and Hamilton, Pierce was in front of Hamilton and Hamilton was behind Pierce. Pierce decided to activate DRS. Usually the prerequisites of activating DRS is if you're in a DRS, so you need to be under a second behind the car to activate DRS. But if you're in front of nobody, you can't activate DRS, which if you're a new F1 fan, you might not notice, but I noticed, and it was pretty funny though. And also like a small pet peeve, like the team waited until he crosses the line and then celebrated. It would be more impactful if the team came before Sonny crosses the finish line. Now, this is the end of this review. Now, would I recommend the movie though? I want you to see it for yourself. If you're like a motorsports fan or if you're new to F1, it's actually a pretty decent movie. Though for me, I'm bouncing it between a 4 out of 10 and a 5 out of 10. The storytelling was not the greatest, but the racing scene was probably the best part of the movie. There are some cringy lines here and there, but the movie is pretty okay. Soundtrack was biblical, and the depiction of an F1 team is pretty accurate, though it wasn't really shown much like how the team really operates. You can tell that Hamilton is in the production team when it mentions Verstappen and references to Abu Dhabi 21. There's this one funny moment in Monza where Sonny waited until Verstappen and Pierce were close near the pit lane, and then he drove off and tried to block Verstappen so that Pierce can catch up. Kate on the other hand thought he was giving him the F1 online experience and just crash into his ass. I find it pretty funny, and it was very Hamilton coded, especially during one of the pit stop scenes where he, at this point that was an unsafe release, he got in front of Verstappen at a very snarky way, and even he got like, oh, that was pretty naughty. I was also curious on how many points they have and how would they stand in the 2023 Constructor Championship. So I did the calculations and it would give them like a P7 on the standings with 48 points. Pretty impressive for a new team. That would put them smack dab above Williams but under Alpine. Of course it's the French. My final verdict for the film, I'm gonna give it like a 5 out of 10. It's not the best when it comes to writing. The racing scene and the music is doing most of the heavy lifting. I wish they did talk more about Joshua's journey to F1 instead of Sonny Hayes' return to F1 being the main storyline. And the romance scene between Hayes and Kate should have been shelved into the Shadow Realm. So yeah, that's pretty much it from my end. If there's something you want to discuss about the movie, please leave a comment. If you enjoyed this yapping session about the movie, please give a like on the video. And if you want to see more content from this channel, please consider subscribing. I'm still in the holidays and I will be returning back in August. I'll see you guys next time.